Hello, fellow Last Epoch enthusiasts. Multiplayer patch 0.9 drops in 10 days, and I wanted you guys to have a look at the builds I managed to min-max and play with throughout the current patch before things change, the meta gets a nice shakeup, and we find out what else we can play with. This is a very basic archetype. It's a Lightning Blast Sorc, which I kind of took to some absurd levels. First, I wanted to show you what it does against bosses. So we're fighting against the Rotting Horde. We have 22% necrotic resistance. This is going to be interesting. But the character is pretty min-maxed. I don't have any kind of real serious damage things. It's just more health and some resistance. So the plan is not to get hit. I decided to start with gameplay instead of the regular. Then I'm going to walk you through a tier 4 Julra run to see exactly what happens. So the character overall is based on cast speed, dealing damage with Lightning Blast, having static orb for clear, and using Twisted Heart of Hulekelerus for stacking immense amounts of ward, especially for a single target. This is my boss killer. Doesn't do that great in clearing monos, in my opinion, for the level of investment, but for bossing, it's going to be very comfortable. Let's see what it can do. I'm also at 189 corruption, so this is not something super big. 159 rarity, 93 more health and damage. So I'm not even at the 200 mark yet. Build has ways to go. All right. Let's see what I can do. All right. Damage seems fine. Yeah. So basically, this build does damage. Now we move away because his breath is necrotic damage over time, which is a very hard thing to counter with. You can notice that I'm already sitting at 5k ward, plus 2k HP. Not so bad. This is a good opportunity for me to get my mana back. Generally, I would decimate this guy with different builds, but right now I felt like, hey, you know what? People aren't always going to play Paladin, so you probably have to give people something they're going to be thankful for. So that's kind of what I did. This is a more active play style. You actually have to manage your ward and, get out of the way sometimes. This is not a complete face tanking build. Not that there's anything bad with that. Oh, yeah, rare enemies also regenerate. I was like, why didn't I kill him yet? All right, you know what? Screw this. I'm just killing him right now. Don't care anymore. I got tired of him keep trying to regen to full. Anything good. 1 LP staff, whatever. Fast Inky and some stuff. So this is how it does against single target. I apologize, I didn't notice the enemies regen if not hit, so that's why I got him to half HP, walked out of his range, came back, and suddenly he was still kind of healthy for my taste, which was kind of weird. Now, let's have a look at Julra Run while I talk a bit about the build. So the basics is stack cast speed, get spells to 100% critical, and rely on massive amounts of leech with Twisted Heart of Ulekelalos, so that you can finally do your main defensive layer, which is stacking wards like nobody's business. Let's head to Temporal Sanctum. The character is not done yet. It's not level 100. I still have to farm for the crit avoidance blessing because the current one that I have still doesn't cover 100% crit avoidance. So I'm at 97%. I think I have to move my camera a bit around so you guys can see my stats. I'm at 97% right now, which is not ideal. Basically, this is territory where you sometimes kind of just get completely decimated by one attack that you didn't count for. Unique weapon, tier 4 Julra. Nah. Let's see exactly what we do. So clearing is an issue with this character, no matter how much I invested in it, because it's just very mana intensive. I just have to keep firing this 29 mana cost static orb thing, and the damage it does is not even that great. But Um, I'm pretty sure it's going to be okay. The moment when I stop playing this as a monolith clearer would be, of course, if by any chance I can't one-shot whiteys. Like if I ever get to the point where a static orb needs 2 or maybe 3 casts to one-shot regular mobs like these, that's when I'll quit pursuing this character through monos. This is basically a boss character, so if you're playing in a multiplayer patch, this would be your boss killer. Bosses are pretty defensive when you get to very, very late game because of how um, stuff kind of multiplies their HP because of the corruption modifier, which is a lot more noticeable on something that has like a ton of HP, right? So that's one of the ways in which this character has an insufficiency, in my opinion, which is it doesn't do well with AoE. Exalted Relics, cool. Sorceress is one of the least played classes of mine. I've only experienced with one Spellblade and one Sorc, and I've done a couple of builds on each one of them, but I never bothered farming the absolute best blessings and stuff because that takes a lot of time and nobody has time for that. So basically, what you see is what you get. There's still a couple of things that we can change to make this build slightly better. One of them being the leech thing. So build currently does a ton of leech. I have about 9 point something percent leech, which is pretty good. And I'm going to get the Rye blessing for 50% increased leech rate, which is going to take my total leech time from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. And that's important because with Twisted Heart, it removes between 14% and 15% of your HP on each cast. So I can cast nothing, and you notice my HP going way down. This means that one of the few ways in which this character can be destroyed, other than player fault, as in you stepped in something you shouldn't have, is if your HP ever gets to be shortened. If your HP pool is affected, then this affects the ward generated by Twisted Heart because your total it reduces 14 to 16% of your max HP, but it actually isn't max HP, it's just your current HP. Which means if you have like 10 HP, you get 1 ward, which is pretty not okay. So my strategy here was get as much HP as I can without making too much of a compromise. And after that, just try your hardest to basically to leech as much as you can and get back to full HP so that each time you cast a spell, it's going to be 14 to 60% out of your max HP, not what you currently have. So that's why you notice that when I hit chunkier enemies like rares, I just static orb to kill the targets around them because I have that lightning blast node that only changes the first target hit. So that means it's horrible for clear, but these chunkier targets allow me to hit it enough times to a point where my damage ramps up so hard that it also ditches 15% of my HP each cast and also replenishes it right back, no problems. Oh man, this is kind of annoying. I don't get it. Oh, there you are. So you notice that I also have to stop and focus quite a bit. Another kind of annoying part of this character. The fact that you have to kind of be careful with mana, you have to kind of be careful with ward. But I'm going to say this, it does create a more interesting playstyle. Like, I've played so much with my previous smiter that was so used to face tanking everything and not having any kind of mana issues that I kind of forgot how to play this game properly, and I kind of play it like an idiot. I just face tank stuff. So for Julra, 42% void resistance, so I can't get touched by anything. Um, and I also only have 97% crit avoidance, so this is going to be okay. I still have over 300 mana pool, because obviously I'm using idols that give you damage if your mana is over 300. Max mana this time, so you can consume everything. The bonus is still there. All right, let's see what my single target is like. Not that great, but the good news about this is we don't have to do that much. All right. Children, are you gonna like do something? All right. I'm at 5k ward. Another good thing is as soon as I teleport, I get some. Oh, yeah. This is what happens if you don't do things properly. But the good news is, even if you do it like this, it's going to be fine. We have some defensive that you guys are going to be able to see as soon as I'm going to talk about how to spec this character. And some of those defenses are going to be pretty wild. Like, for example, his damage taken, um, things like that. They're all going to be pretty good. I've screwed up. So again, one of the major disappointments in this character is the fact that if you screw up, you're kind of dead. But the single target damage is great, and if you play carefully, if you rotate your ward, you can get to like 6k ward plus 2k HP. You can become pretty tanky. The problem with Sorc being that you're only tanky conditionally. Now, this demonstration might not tell you guys much, so let's just have a quick look at my actual character. Let me just move my webcam somewhere where you can't see stuff. There we go. Good enough. So, I am using 2 rings of the third eye. This comes with the problem that it reduces crit multiplier. However, I got a T7, I believe. Yeah, that's, I think, a T7 crit multiplier on the perfect base, a Dragon Whore wand. I also have spell crit on that. Ideally, you will want shock and chill as suffixes for your wand, and I'll show you why in a second. Prism Wraps with just some HP on them. It's just tier 5 HP. That's the only thing I got, but 30% less damage taken, elemental damage taken. This also includes ignites, frost bites, anything elemental. It doesn't say from hits, so it's generic and it works. My helmet is probably the worst part of my equipment because I didn't farm with a Sorc character at all. So I don't have that many exalted helmets for it. Here, I would say the most required thing would be +2 level of Lightning Blast, although that also isn't really that mandatory. I would say the +2 level of Static Orb is definitely mandatory because you really want to have that those levels, because Static Orb does shit damage and it's your clear. So you gotta invest in that. Because I didn't have any +3s, I kind of went super greedy and I went with an Omnis. If I had +3, for example, to Lightning Blast and 2 to Static Warp, in that case, I would not necessarily be using an Omnis. I would probably be using something else if I could figure out the resists. There's a couple of options like rare or exalted items that can do quite a bit. This is a tier 5 cast speed, tier 6 armor shred, Joldra gloves. Why am I using Joldra gloves and, I don't know, not Ravenous Void? Well, Ravenous Void does give you a ton of HP and defensive layers, and they're pretty good overall. The problem being, there's not a lot of armor shred things on Mage, and you need it as a crit hit build, even if it spells. Your armor shred is going to determine how well you can scale your damage past points something like wand. Like, think about it. I have a wand and I have Crystal Skull for the crit rating, right? What else am I going to do to increase damage? Because I can't get any more adaptive damage. I've gotten everything on the tree. I've gotten the more multipliers on my skill nodes for Lightning Blast and Static Orb. How am I going to possibly increase my DPS after? Well, it comes in the form of Shock, Lightning Resistant Shred, and of course in the form of Armor Shred, because we're a hit build. So this allows me to have immense amounts of Armor Shred, Lightning Resist. Oh, I haven't completed the... wait a second, where are you? Fire, Winter... Nope. Nope. Ending the storm. I also managed to get like 38% chance to shred lightning resist here. Um, but moving on with the gear first. Boots are just pure HP. That's it. That's all you kind of need. Just pure HP boots. Get the best you want ones you have. I think going with the unique boots that increase shock effect is a trap because you just cast so many times. There's limited things you can do with lightning with shock effectiveness, even against bosses. It's good, but the sacrifice is too much. Unless you get those boots with 3 or 4 LP, don't bother with it. Twisted Heart, to which I slapped on a tier. I think it's tier 7. Yeah, it's tier 7 int. Int is good because it gives you ward retention and damage. And damage from other procs in your skill tree. So I've been sacking quite a bit of int. Right now, my real character is sitting at about 73, I believe, which adds a ton of a ton of percent damage to most of my spells, not just Lightning Blast, meaning it's pretty useful. Not to mention the fact that my defensive are something like 360, 370 ward retention, and when I teleport, I get like over 400% ward retention. And keeping that ward there from decaying is pretty important in a build that works by sacrificing your life with Twisted Heart and transferring it into ward. It just feels more comfortable that way, which is also why I'm using Ring of the Third Eye, tier 7 intelligence, and some life. And Ring of the Third Eye. This one had tier 6 increased elemental damage and a very much needed tier 5 critical strike avoidance. So I make cap with the blessing from Reigns of Dragons. So we get the crit out of the way. Belt has a much needed tier 5 mana regen, just lightning damage as a prefix. It could also be spell damage for your other pieces of gear, so don't always focus on lightning damage. You can focus on spell damage, you can focus on elemental damage as well, so don't just keep items with lightning damage because most of it kind of translates well for Lightning Blast. Other than that, hybrid health instead of percent health, so I lose a bit of HP here, but I also managed to get some useful tier 5 poison res, and I've sealed the cleanse chance for potions. So whenever you get ignited, poisoned, frostbitten, uh, shocked, and stuff like that, if you use a pot, it's going to clear the ailments that you have, which is very important for late game characters. Other than that, we're using the best adorned arcane idols possible. I'm going to tell you now the prefix is capacitive and the suffix is electromancy. I've only been using 3 because I kind of wanted to get my HP over 2k at least. Remember that Twisted Heart also likes large amounts of HP. So the more HP you have, the more that 15% converted when you cast something into ward is going to reward you with more ward. And finally, I got cast speed while I have lightning aegis and just HP because, again, for the same reason. In terms of skills, very standard build. This is the reason why I told you guys that you need chill chance on your scepter because you get hit damage against chilled enemies 36%, which is more. So basically, this gives you 72% more damage as long as your enemy is shocked, which you're definitely going to be able to do, and chilled, so you need the source of chill. Other than that, what else do we have? We have the basically more damage, chance to double cast 24%, 40% crit multi, quadruple again, then we go to base crit, 1 point in lightning attunement because lightning gauges gives us so much stuff. It gives us about 100 something percent lightning damage. It gives us insane cast speed. So this is absolutely, absolutely necessary just to make sure you have it up all the time. Then you have chain lightning, which gives it additional chains, and lightning blast can only chain to first target. This is your single target damage setup. Over here we have additional chains chaining to the single target, cast speed, and of course the aforementioned more hit damage node. For static orb, we just have projectile speed and smaller orbs because we're using it for clear. Here we just have more damage but less projectile speed, which is kind of countered by this. So basically we're just taking volatile outburst for the more damage. 1 point into Forking Surge, and then I put 1 point into Static Armor. because if you're growing up to a boss, you haven't casted anything yet, you have no lightning gauges. So what I generally do is I walk up, I shoot a static orb to start my lightning gauges, I gain the buff, and then I have plenty. I have 2 more seconds to cast about 50 lightning blasts to keep the buff up. So this is like a starter. And then we go to crit multiplier and spell damage to shocked enemies, simply because again, this is my clear skill. I want to kill it as efficiently as possible. Plus, it costs a ton of mana. It's like 29 mana on my character. Some shock chance, and of course, mana cost because I didn't care about the pool. I just wanted to reduce the mana cost by something. Teleportation, pretty standard. Um, Health into word, because you're technically a life converted into word build. So whenever you teleport, you get some extra word. Word retention for 4 seconds when you land. Word retention per point of intelligence. Why not? And also, of course, word gained. Other than that, I like the 250 flat armor. This is very good. And with the 2 points I have into time dilation, the buffs last for about, let's see, it's 40%. No. It's almost 6 seconds, right? It's 4.7 seconds or something like that. And teleport only has a 4-second cooldown, which means every time you teleport, you can keep this 250 flat armor buff up. For a class that has no armor, having this buff up is actually quite something because it does bring my defenses versus physical hits to 25%, which is better than 0. It's still a less multiplier for hits, and also works 70% as effectively for elemental damage. So keeping your teleport up to keep this armor up is kind of something. It's another layer. What else? Flame Ward is just normal, basic stuff. The only other thing that I did was, this is really good. This might be worth sacrificing some word I get from Flame Ward because less hit damage taken is incredibly useful. If you stack this up, basically you would take out, for example, word retention and just put points here, and you get 40% less damage. So, Julra about to do her cold cone attack. Press press Flame Ward, and you have 40% less hit damage taken, which is incredibly good. You also combine this with Flame Ward, reducing elemental damage taken, and um, you get to be incredibly tanky. So Flame Ward is your oh shit button. That's why we also took the extra ward granted with no retaliation. And, just the rest of it is just word stuff. That's it. And of course, we took focus because static orb is super mana intensive, and this is how we get our mana back, basically. It's still pretty useful because you can get Iron Stance, for example. Personally, I just took Shocking Aura because as soon as you shock something near you, like a melee mob or something, you get 25% damage reduction from that shocked enemy, which is incredibly good, especially in those oh shit moments. Then we took some more mana. Haste, depending on how many seconds you cast it, which means I can enjoy like 64% move speed for a couple of seconds once I've casted it. It doesn't make it feel like I lost time because I had to use focus to get mana back. And these are just for ward generation. If you're okay with ward and you want even more tankier playstyle, Iron Stance is pretty good, seeing as we have a ton of intelligence, 72. So that's a ton of armor that you can get by casting it. I just felt like the playstyle was a bit static and I didn't choose to do it. Um, and that is my character. This is my first min-maxed build that I'm showcasing, upwards of 6k ward while attacking a single target. Incredibly good and useful to be used versus dungeon bosses, in my opinions, but there will be other classes out there that can do it a bit smoother and also maybe a bit more effective. But still, it's a staple of the genre. I had to show you guys. Lightning Blast Mage. Why not? So this is my build. I've invested enough in this character. I can just patiently wait for patch 0.9 for multiplayer and to decide what I'm going to do with my character then. I hope you enjoyed it. This is going to be an interesting series. This is the first of my min-max characters, Lightning Blast Mage. Hope you guys have fun, and I guess I'll see you in multiplayer. Take care and have fun.